Welcome, everyone. My name's Mark, and I represent a few different companies that have brought you Teach Me PCB. Teach Me PCB is designed to give new engineers and young designers their first printed circuit board experience. And this year, we are learning how to make our own macro pads, a macro keyboard that you can program keystrokes to do different things. We're going through every step of the process, from reading the data sheets to selecting parts to assembling it on the board. And we're a couple of weeks in right now of about 450 active participants this year, and I really appreciate you all joining us. The reason that we're having this presentation tonight is a lot of you guys would like to start buying things, and we'll get into that next week. But before you go out and you order, whatever soldering iron is that you decide you need, we wanted to give you a rundown of what some of the users in the course are doing, what we like about them and what we don't. So before you go drop, $25 on the latest Pincel or whatever it is that you want, we want to give you a little bit of experience with those. And to that end, I've brought a couple tools out tonight. One of those is a FLIR camera that will let us know just how accurate the temperature scales on the soldering irons are, if they're accurate at all. And the other tool that we have, if time permits, we've got some practice soldering boards from Amazon that we'll take a look at and see how good these parts are at assembly. So with that, let me go ahead and bring in my first guest, Don. Don, you are now live, sir. Welcome.
All right. Welcome. Hi. How's everybody doing tonight? All right. So my first one that I have here, I have a TS100. I use it for drone work. So these are some of the drones that I have. And it makes it real easy to get in there because it's got a nice small tip on it. And you can change out the tips pretty quickly. There's two tips that come with the one I bought. And it kind of makes getting in here and getting all these little motor wires that they go from essentially this piece all the way under here and get in real tight spaces so you can get in there and get to where you need to be. So this one's really cool because it comes with this adapter plug here that, if you're familiar with RC, it has an XT60 on the end of it, and it has the normal plug. So you can plug it into one of these batteries with an XT60 connector. That way, you can, if you're in the field and you need to fix a repair, motor broke, you need to replace a motor, you can plug it into the battery and go to town off of that. The second one that I have, it's a bigger kind of rework station. I don't use it a whole lot, but it's it's YIHUA, and it's an Amazon special. It's the 8620BD Plus. But it has a rework, so hot air, and it has a solder with kind of the replaceable tips on it. So those are the two that I use primarily. I do a lot of kind of small electronic pieces here. I do Christmas lights, so it helps kind of get in there and put all those little components down. Of course, I have the little second hand kind of things because I need like 18 hands to solder half of this stuff. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty much what I got. I got a bunch of other little toys here floating around. If we get back some time, we can kind of get back into them. But yeah, that's it.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing, Don. Let me ask you, if you had to choose one or the other, and I think I might know the answer, but if you had to choose between one or the other of the irons that you have, and which one would it be?
The TS100, it heats up like super fast. One of the cool things about it is it's got a firmware that's upgradable. So you can put a new firmware on there that technically goes to 400 stock. There's a new firmware that I think it makes it go up to 430 Celsius. But it's super fast. It heats up really quick, and it cools down super fast, which is also very important. Yeah, so the TS100, this thing is awesome.
Soldering irons with firmware. Would you ever think? Would you ever think you saw the day? I tell you. By the way, we are live on YouTube. If you do have any questions out there, please feel free to ask. I can actually show them here on the screen. So thank you, Don. Don't go too far. I'm going to come back to you in a minute, but let's flip over to Elliot, and then we'll take take a minute to use the FLIR to look at an example. For those of you that are just joining us, right now we are live on YouTube. If you would like to join the StreamYard to share what you have, we've got that visible in the Discord. The link is available there. And if I get a second, I will bring it and show it on screen for you too, although I don't know if you'll be able to click on it. Elliot, welcome.
Hey guys. So yeah, it's an easy answer. TS100. I got this probably 2 years ago. OLED screen has completely worn out. I just replaced it, but it's awesome because it cools down when you're not using it. So if you set the thing down, accelerometer or whatever says time to go to sleep, it makes the tips last forever. So this tip's probably, it's got a lot of miles on it. That's lasted really well. So I would actually recommend that Pine Sil, or however you pronounce it, because it uses the same tips, and it's $30, and this is like 70 or $80. It's also got all the same features, and as far as I can tell, it's just as good. The other thing too is really easy to power. So I've got a laptop power brick here. I welded up a really heavy piece of steel, stays put, and you just plug it in however you want. Also, it's portable. So let's see, I got a lot of junk around here. Lithium battery pack. You can plug the thing and take it with you, solder, whatever. It's pretty sweet. So that would be my recommendation, is actually TS100 or this guy. And I would stay away from anything that looks like this. In my experience, the tips don't conduct heat very well from the heating element, at least not the cheap ones. These are pretty loosey-goosey. Doesn't really make a good contact. So I think there's a thermocouple inside there. And it doesn't regulate as well. It's slow. And I think the plating on the tips, I've got a handful here, they just kind of erode over time. And they stay at the full temperature when they're in the little resting position that comes with the soldering stations. So they end up kind of eating the tips that aren't that good in the first place. And anyways, yeah, I'd stay away from these because, I don't know, I think I bought this replacement iron for about $3, and I'd say that's the right value for these guys.
Oh, ouch. Elliot, do you happen to have anything you can demonstrate how to solder if I come back to you in a minute, or if you could even do it quickly now?
Yeah, actually, let me give me like 38 seconds and I'll have something.
Okay. And then Don too, is that something you'd be able to do for us as well?
Maybe. I got some, I don't know right now. So I'm trying to pull off some stuff here so we get a better look at the electronics on one of these, but maybe.
Okay. So then I will come back to you. And we'll give Elliot a second too. And while we're doing that, I'm going to flip over to getting to start about some of these irons. So I picked up a few different $20 irons off of Amazon. All of these have an LCD display. I like LCD over OLED because the OLEDs do deteriorate over time, which is kind of a bummer. These are the same type of replaceable tips that we were just hearing about from Elliot. So these guys, you know, usually you get 4 or 5 different ones in a pack. You'll get a pencil thin one that I generally never use, a flat blade tip that I do use quite frequently. You sometimes get, well, I think that's the same one that we have now. You've got a drag tip where you put a bunch of solder down on your board and just drag it across. And then a knife tip, a chisel tip, where you can really just go to town. I don't use that too much for soldering, but you could use that theoretically to do a little wire stripping or even cut apart some plastics for things. So what we're going to do is figure out how accurate these little LCD displays are on these irons. And the way that we're going to do that is by letting them heat up while viewing them with a FLIR camera that's capable of 0 to 300 degrees Celsius. So the camera is going to be limited into how much it can cover. It can't do everything. But one of the issues that you have when you look at a device, and I'm going to bring up the FLIR right now, is whenever you've got a shiny element, the camera is going to see the reflection off of the tip. So it's not going to get the true, whoops, I hit a button, my apologies. So it's not going to get a true measurement. So what do you do about that? Well, the trick to that is correction fluid. So we're going to coat all of these irons with an even dose of this. So all of the cameras, all of the irons will have a uniform albedo, and then we'll heat them up and see if what they're telling us is true. All right, with that, while I let that correction fluid dry, Elliot, are you ready?
All right, yeah, let's give this a whirl. So I'll actually show you this here. The thing's even got a menu built into it. You can see how fast it's heating up. Now you might be able to see.
Yep, we can.
Heats up pretty quick, which is really nice. I don't know, 30 seconds or so. This is a little board. It's got a handful of DC jacks, and they're the ones that match like a HP or a Dell laptop charger. It'll actually let you, I don't know, it's just something I was messing around with, but putting them in series to get a much higher voltage power supply. So I need to turn the temp up here a little, but it's pretty simple. Hit a button twice. Got some shaky hands. And I'm trying not to put my head in the frame so you can see what I'm doing, but works pretty well. I've got the well tip on there, the round one, kind of a taper on the end. For no particular reason. I actually don't really do any surface mount anything, but it works pretty well and I've never bothered to change it. So, yeah.
Well, very cool. I was just trying to monitor our stream health since this is the first time that we're doing something like this, and I've got too many things going. It says live now, but I have no idea how many viewers we have. So for those of you just joining us, feel free to leave comments or feel free to join us over on StreamYard if you want to show off what it is that you have. We'd be happy to see you. Our link to the StreamYard is in your announcements for the day and also on our Discord channel. So, Elliot, that seemed pretty quick.
Yeah, I mean, these components aren't super stout. They've got a metal shield, which I did solder a couple of those around there, but the thing has no problem maintaining temperature. I mean, unless you're doing like something, I don't know. If you're soldering an extension cord together, you got to crank the temperature up a little, but it maintains its heat pretty well. It doesn't just get cold when you touch something. So, yeah, works pretty good.
That is very cool. Give me just 1 second. I want to share our stream for YH55NE825. If you would like to join us, you can visit this link, type that into your browser, and join the stream, and you can share your soldering setup. All right, Elliot, I'm going to remove you for the moment, but please hang around. We can continue to chat about what kind of projects, maybe bring out a project that you've done, and Don. But right now, we're going to flip over and do our first experiment with the FLIR cam.
You got it.
All right. So, our first camera, and not camera, our first iron I have says it's at 180 C on the LCD. Let's see if I can give you an overhead view. So we've got 180 degrees Celsius, according to the LCD display. On my $20 camera, we want to go to this camera. The FLIR cam seems to disagree. It's reading the hottest part of the image, the spot at 252. That's pretty crazy. That it is off that much. I don't know if that's a discrepancy between our little whiteout test or not. We'll have to do a couple other irons to see. But right now, that is crazy, crazy, crazy hot. Solder will melt at a specific temperature. Most solder that you pick up these days is eutectic or pretty close to it. And that means that it goes from solid phase to liquid phase at a single temperature. That might be a little bit confusing, so let's back up a minute. Most of you are familiar with water. Ice melts and goes from the solid to the liquid phase at 0 degrees Celsius, and then it boils at 100 degrees Celsius. Well, that only works for pure substances. When you start having mixtures of substances, the temperatures change over a range. First, going from solid to kind of a slush at a liquidus temperature, and then going from liquidus to solid at the solidus temperature. And solders are carefully mixed combinations of metals so that those solidus and liquidus temperatures are essentially the same temperature. The theory being that not so much when you heat it up, but when you cool it down, you don't want different parts of the solder congealing at different times and trapping impurities. So if you're at too high a temperature, very much higher than what you need, you can damage your board, you can damage your components. So my first iron, my $20 special, we're roughly 70 degrees higher than the stated temperature. Now I'm going to crank it up 10 degrees C to 190 and see what happens. See if we're seeing anything. So the FLIR is picking up a spot temp of about 260. And as I cruise up to 200 degrees Celsius, actually, let's go ahead and go up to 210 because I want to get back to the gentleman here. Okay. So on my screen, we're seeing 210 degrees and my FLIR camera is reading 270. So quite a big difference. We are seeing quite the discrepancy. Let's see if we see that on any other cameras. All right. Don, welcome back.
Hi. Let's see if we can get a good view here. All right. So I had this little proto board, and I think this is a linear converter. I don't remember the exact name for this, but I was trying to regulate some voltage or making it go from one to another. I don't remember what it was. But yeah. So, and before we get there, let me bring out one of the drones and just kind of see if I can show you how tiny. It's not going to work. The camera lighting's not very good in here. But this is essentially a 3-inch drone, and if you can see some of those little gold plates in there, not very well. But the solder pads are super tiny. As you can actually see it better on the video controller back here. So those little gold plates, those are the solder points for the wires that go, that one specifically controls the video for the drone itself. And they get smaller as the drones get smaller. But yeah, so this is I remember this linear regulator. One of the cool things that I've done with the rework station is I do a lot of home automation, and there's these little ESP chips in a lot of the switches that you can buy, and they used to be able to flash different firmware to them, but one of the makers has gotten smart and they started putting different chips on there that you can't flash. So I would use the rework station to basically desolder these and then put on some ESP01s that I can then put custom stuff on. So that's pretty cool there.
That is very cool.
See if I can get anything to solder here. I usually go real high on my solder, but yesterday I learned you're not supposed to do that.
as long as you're fast enough about it, you get away with it, right? You get about 5 seconds of playtime before you start damaging things. So
There we go.
Usually I'll put it down and I just start counting to myself, 1,000, 2, 1,000. And then, by the time you get to 5, you just need to back off, let it cool down, and come back at it again.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. And Tony, I see that you've joined us, but you've got to get your devices connected, buddy, before I can add you in.
I need better lighting, apparently. Actually, you know what? I have better lighting. I think I should probably just turn it on. There we go. Somewhat better. White on white, though, it's kind of hard to see the board.
No, that's okay.
All right.
That's great.
Cool.
All right. Well, thanks for sharing that with us. All right,
Absolutely.
I'm going to leave you for a moment, and we can come back again later, maybe with a project next time. And we're going to actually pull out my soldering station and see what there is to see. So this is the one that I use every day, and I've got it also set to 180 degrees and painted with whiteout. So we're going to kind of get a real-time view of it going up to temp and see what the overshoot is. You can sure see that heat traveling down the spine of that. Over here, that thing does get hot. And I got to tell you, I'm going to have all sorts of fun cleaning up all these tips later. So the temperature display on my machine is fluctuating between 180 and 182. And the FLIR camera is telling us it's hotter than that. It's telling us it's 200 right now. Ooh, do we have any guesses what it'll get up to? We're slowing down. But it's still climbing, just much slower. So it's looking like we're going to get about 220, 230 without much work. So then the question becomes, and I'll bring my guests back too, just for audio wise, what do we think is going on? Do we think it's a measurement error? Do we think it's a cheat machine error? Is there any way we could know for sure?
I think it's physics.
There's certainly physics going on. But it looks like we're kind of plateaued. Yeah, we started going back down. So our peak temp here at 180 degrees on my soldering station, it looks like we're at about 225. So a delta of 45 degrees. And it looks like it's pretty much plateaued there.
I think part of this might be the distance between the point at which you're measuring and the point, where the machine measures the temperature and the actual tip there. They're like an inch apart.
They're not an inch apart. They're
well, is that the same? I can't tell from the image there. Is that the same kind of tip as? Let's see. With the ceramic element that kind of goes up the center of it.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. So the thermocouple is in there. The tip is some distance past it, and I don't know. On the ones I have, they're pretty loosely coupled to that like ceramic heating element. So I think where it's measuring versus where the tip is not always the same, right?
I think I understand that. I think I understand you completely. So it's a variability based on the thermocouple location versus the tip location.
Yeah, the amount of time, you might reach the temperature here, you'll be low here. Maybe it overshoots because that's normal. I don't know. Anyways.
And a little bit
takes time.
Thermal inertia. No, I think that could absolutely be it. Very cool. Okay. Well, then let's see if we can get a little bit of a better screen on what Elliot was just telling us about. So this is the first one that we experimented with, right? And we can continue to take these things apart a little bit more. So inside, we've got a heating element, a thermocouple, the tip, and everything else just kind of functions as a retainer. Right? There's nothing to this. This is just retaining. So Elliot, this then is the heating element in the thermocouple?
Yep. Somewhere in there, hopefully near the end, is the thermocouple. And then your tip just kind of sits on top of that. It's not bonded to it. There's probably some air in there. So whatever's happening in the element has got to be a little bit delayed and a little bit different than what's happening on the very end.
That makes complete sense to me. All right. Well, Elliot, man, thanks for answering that question. And for our audience out there, if you have any questions, by all means, share them with us. We're here for you. The reason we're doing this live instead of a recording is so that we can interact. And the only way interaction happens is if you participate. I'm Mark with Teach Me PCB, and we really appreciate you guys spending your time with us. Don or Elliot, do you have any projects that you can share with us while I get set up for a soldering demo?
Sure, I have one.
Go, Don.
All right, so this is technically somebody else developed the board, but it's called an ES Pixel kind of board. So it's for controlling LED lights. There's a couple. Let me see, show you the background here. But so there's the Christmas candy canes back there. So there's node types, which are kind of like little balls. There's an RGB kind of controller in the middle of those, and then you have these typical RGBs here. So what this will do is you flash the firmware onto this little ESP chip, and you can control either a 5-volt or a 12-volt light source with this through Wi-Fi. And then you can kind of program it into any other home automation piece you have. But this has, and I don't remember all the components, but there are, I think this is a MOSFET. There's a capacitor there. There's a little push button switch to program it. Little 3-pin for the actual lights themselves. So there's a 3-wire pin that goes out, so ground, data, and voltage. This piece over here just powers the board, and that power kind of gets routed back over through to the power and ground on this, and the data comes out, and it's controlled by this little guy there. I think that's a linear diode on there. I don't remember, but it's basically, I know what it does. It keeps the electricity from flowing back through itself to damage the board. Yeah, so that's this one is kind of a failed project. I messed up somewhere on the back, so I soldered it through, and I think I cut one of these a little too short with my snips, and I did something on the board, so I kind of messed this one up. So it's one that I scavenge parts for at the moment.
Very cool. Well, thank you for sharing with us, Don. I also see my friend Mahir there. Mahir is one of the sponsors of the course. He runs a great newsletter called theanalog.io. Curated content, a lot of stuff that I enjoy. You guys probably will too. So if you haven't signed up already, sign up for theanalog.io. We're going to come back over to me now for a minute. And then maybe we can have Elliot show us something he's proud of. And then hopefully we'll get a few more people on here who will be able to join us. Hopefully I haven't given them bad information on how to join. So I've got a little learn as you go solder kit from Amazon. And if you joined us in the stream the other day, I showed you how to bend a piece of wire to make just a simple device to hold a part in place while you solder. Nothing much to it. The thing that gave me the idea to make this was something else I made to hold even smaller components, and I made it just out of scrap. There's nothing to it. This is just a dental pick. And the dental pick needed a little bit of weight. So I had a piece of metal from an old something I took apart, and I just screwed it down to it. So all this is just acting as dead weight. It looks fancy and complicated. It's really not. It's a dental pick with mass. That's it. So let me zoom in a little bit and I'll show you what that looks like. If you are so lucky as to get to solder something. Okay, get out of there. So let's say you are trying to line up a part for assembly. Well, that thing's going to shift all over the place on you. So all this does is just put a little bit of downforce so you can get started with your project. And I'm going to have to pull out a little bit of a pointer to get that going. So let's take a minute and I'm going to actually zoom over to another camera that's going to give you an even closer view. And we'll take a look at how to solder a part. And our friend Brian has joined us. We'll bring you up here in just a sec, Brian. So next up, I've got Microscope View. Boom, boom, boom. And if I do happen to get off screen, I would appreciate if you guys would let me know, yeah? All right. So one of the things that you always have to do when you're soldering stuff, and there is no way that is the right part, but we're going to solder it anyway. But you want to use flux. Flux does two things. One, it helps distribute the heat. Two, it will deoxidize and protect the pads from oxidation while you solder. So the general idea, whenever you get started on something, and I'm going to use my little weighted dental pick to hold that in place now that it's lined up. I do realize this is not the right part for the pad, but I don't really care. But anyway, start off and melt a bunch of solder on your tip. That lets you know if you have your iron at the right temperature or not. It also helps to clean the tip. If there's any flux in there, it will clean it right up. Then clean off the extra flux, and then you should be hopefully kind of ready to go. Going to get the pad centered, and then I'm going to pin a couple of the corners in. Okay, here we go. I am not winning tonight, I tell you. I think I did a better showing last night. There we go. Just want to get a little bit of solder on that corner pin there, drag it across, and that should be enough to keep it from moving around. At that point, you can move things around, and I think I can get a little better focus for you. You can move things around and start hitting the other pins. Mahir, who is lurking in the corner there, can absolutely out-solder me any day of the week, but he's shy tonight. He's not on screen. Or he's at the gym. I don't know which. But once you get those corners pinned, you can just go through, and even though I'm not all that well aligned, it's close enough with that flux to just be able to go in and tie in all those pins. So with that, let's bring in a couple friends, and then we'll bring out the pencil. All right. Welcome, everyone. Uh-oh. Have we lost audio?
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
There we go. So, welcome everyone. Elliot, do you want to change your picture to be on screen? I can bring you in too. But Emil is running our Discord channel along with Brian, aka Linthall Engineering. So welcome, gentlemen. You want to tell us a little bit about what soldering stations you have? We'll start with Brian and then go with Emil, what you like about them, and if you would get them again.
This is the poor excuse for my soldering equipment at the moment. It's a genuine Radio Shack. So I'm one of those who is looking to upgrade. Whether I end up with something like the Pine Sol or if I've got the ability to go, there's a nice, I think it was a Yahuwah or whatever, however you pronounce that, that's got a vacuum pump powered desoldering gun that looks real nice. A buddy of mine, no, not a buddy, but a guy I watch on YouTube has the Hacko version of that, and he can clean solder off of board so fast it's not even funny. It just heats it up and you can clean out through holes just instantly. And I got a bunch of stuff I'd like to recycle. All the old, all the 3D printer controllers that I have burned out one way or another over the past year, and other things. I'll probably start tearing apart everything I have.
One of these, Brian?
Looks pretty similar, yeah.
Can I ask you to do me a favor when we're done here?
Sure.
Would you get on DigiKey and pick yourself out something nice in the $100 range and send me a link to it and let me see what I can do for you?
Okay.
1 to 150. Emil, my friend,
We'll see
welcome.
what they have. I don't. I'm shopping on Amazon. I haven't looked. I just look for parts on DigiKey, so I'll look when I can.
Yeah. Let me know if there's anything there, and let me see what strings I can pull. Emil, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for joining us. What time is it over there?
It's like 9:35. So.
In the morning. Wow.
No, PM. I'm
PM?
Eastern Canada.
Eastern Canada. Okay.
Yeah.
Not too late then. What soldering station do you have, sir?
I have an Echo, the blue one. But I just put all the tip, but there is also like the base that goes with it. It's pretty good. It's not that expensive, and yeah, you can control the temperature. I had some really crappy one before, and where you couldn't control the temperature, and it was like painful. So yeah, it's pretty nice. This one, I think it cost. Yeah, I don't know how much it cost in the US. I think it was like 250 Canadian, so like maybe 180 US or something like that. And it has like regular stuff. It's pretty well built, and you have different tips you can change and everything. So yeah.
Oh wow.
No, it's decent for the price. I like this company. Like they make good products in general, and it's not that expensive.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing with us.
Yeah, sure.
Do you have any projects that you would like to share while you're here? I know you're not going to stay
I
long.
don't have anything on hand, no.
That's
Maybe
okay.
later.
That's okay. I appreciate it. And then Brian, how about you? Do you have any projects you'd like to share?
Well, I can show you what I've, the parts that I've got. I've got the case is just been redesigned and going to be reprinted. But that's the front. It's a Adafruit 3.5 touch screen with a stack of feather stuff on the back. And what I'm doing, long story, a friend of the family, um, or one of the elderly aunts of one side or the other. I don't remember. Not even quite sure how she's related to us, but she has been for the past 35 years making it, spending all her time between Thanksgiving and Christmas making homemade almond roca, English toffee with chocolate and nuts on it. She's decided that she's done. She's like 95 and doesn't want to cook anymore. So she passed at least part of it on to me. She taught me how to do it, and of course I get started going cross project. I have a torn apart crock pot, and I'm going to use this as a temperature controller to melt the chocolate in the crock pot. And I've got a plug-in thermometer that'll sit over on the stove as a candy thermometer to tell me when the candy's cooked up to temperature. So I don't have to do so much manual checking of thermometers and all that kind of stuff. I can just push a button and say, melt chocolate, and it will do it.
Very cool. So let me take a moment to make a couple quick announcements. One, for all of our stream participants, I don't want to promise anything, but the same offer that I extended to Brian, I'd like to extend to you. DigiKey has graciously offered to buy some things for our course participants. So I don't really know what that's going to look like because I just got confirmation today. But if you do have any wish lists on Digi, let me know. We'll see I'll see what I can do. I don't want to promise it, but maybe. The second thing, for anybody watching, IPC is holding a design competition. They asked us to let people know. The first round closes within a week. It's pretty simple stuff. It's nothing too fancy. But if you win and you get promoted, you can get an invite down to the IPC Apex Expo in San Diego in, I believe it's January. So I just got the press release about 20 minutes before I went live. I will share that with the course participants, probably tomorrow at this point. But if it's something you might want to give a shot doing, you never know. Sometimes these things are won, by newbies. Sometimes they're won because nobody else bothers to do it. And you never know what kind of prizes you get. I always recommend people doing it. Jesse and I enter every competition we can, and usually we clean house. Not necessarily because we're very good, but because, we're one of 3 people that enter, and, Jesse scored some really great 3D printers. I picked up 4 Keysight tools, a multimeter, oscilloscope, function generator, and something else. I don't even remember. Just because I was up against like 13 people, it wasn't really a thing. So give it a shot. All right, we're back on group chat. I still have the pencil to demonstrate here in just a minute. But before I do, I was wondering if any of you guys have any soldering tips or tricks or jigs that you'd like to share. Oh, Elliot.
All right, guys. This is a copy of the stick vise. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Some gracious person invented it, and I stole it. But what it is, I don't have a board that fits here exactly, but it's a very simple design. It's got a spring-loaded section, and it's definitely better for bigger boards. These are some, I don't know if you can see there, sort of a bobbin-shaped thing, but it's a clamp, and it's really easy to flip the thing over, flip it back, do your deal, hold your board still. I don't use it all the time, but handy dandy, and I think probably pretty easy to 3D print your own or, buy one.
Yeah, I don't have mine with me, but I did 3D print a whole little electronic vise kind of thing, and there's a lot of different models out there that have all the different little hands and fingers and everything, but mine's just a little simple vise that has little kind of etch in it where you just throw the board in there, you just tighten it up on the vise, and just go to town on it.
Very cool. Yeah. Stick vise right here. That's an excellent suggestion, Elliot. I love it. Anyone else? What do you guys use?
I have something like that I bought with a lot of arms. It's pretty nice when you have like bigger stuff that you need to hold on, and you can put a few arms into it, and you can move it around the different arms. So it's pretty nice. It doesn't not too expensive. So
Can
Yeah.
you show that one more time?
yeah.
Here we go.
Bit
And
of
it's all
dust
magnet.
into it. Yeah, it's all magnet on the top, and those are for the PCBs. If you have like corners holes, then you can just put your PCB on top of it, and then just like put it at the shape of your PCB and hold it there. But I've never really tried it, so I don't know how well it works. But those arms are pretty useful if you want to do like, I don't know, microphone soldering like more bigger stuff. It's pretty nice.
Very cool. Well, thank you for sharing. Don, Brian, anything you
I
guys
can't
would
lay
like?
hands on mine, but the only thing I've got to use is I believe the brand name was Panavice. It's a little dome-shaped thing with an arm that goes back and forth and two little fingers to hold on to things with. It's actually got PC board clamps on it. It's useful for for repairing something, but when it would come to trying to solder a board from scratch, no, it wouldn't. It wouldn't do the job. So
Yeah, the
I might
little
have
helping.
I need to find one of those little weighted dental picks that you've got there, Mark. That was cute.
Yeah, this is a little helping hand. This is pretty cool. It just has two hands. I've used it so much the actual magnifying glass you can't really see out of it anymore. But one of the things I recently picked up was a silicone mat. So I see a lot of people get the blue tack stuff, and they'll just throw some blue tack onto the mat, and they'll just shove everything on the blue tack and solder it from there. So I haven't tried that yet. I don't have any blue tack, but I've seen a lot of people do that.
Yeah, I think that is originally a Mark Rober suggestion. I'm not a big fan of the blue tack for the boards myself, but silicone mat, absolutely. I 3D printed something similar to what Emil has. I don't know if I have it handy or not. It doesn't look like I do, but I actually am working underneath my mat is a bunch of 1/4-20 holes. It's called an optical breadboard, and there's a 1/4-20 hole every inch on center. So I can do all sorts of jigging. I probably spend more time jigging than I do making. I don't know. It's just kind of zen, it's just kind of fun. So what about vision? I find, now I'm certainly middle-aged. Here we go. Sorry. I finally see where they were. So I've 3D printed these little stands. They've got 1.6 millimeter slots in them. So the board you can capture it from the side, and then just a little bit of adjustability on the base. So there's nothing really to the design. Or if your board has mounting holes, you can just take off the post mount and, screw it right in too. So anyhow, I was going to ask about vision. I'm blind, legally in this eye, like I'm blind, but my right eye, the vision just seems to be getting worse as I get older. So I've got microscopes and cameras and all sorts of fancy stuff. I don't expect a lot of the people in our course have that. And I don't know that they necessarily need it, but are you guys still able to see what you're soldering? Or if not, what solutions do you have?
It's getting to that point. I've had microscope in my Amazon wish list forever. I just don't really want to buy it yet. They're not cheap. So I'm trying to find like the little USB ones that you can just plug into a computer. I don't know. People don't really like those, but I make it work. So it's usually just, I had a bottle of something the other day and it was black and the writing on it was silver, and I had to get my phone out and shine the flashlight on it. My wife's like, "You're getting old." Like, black on silver, I can't read it. so I'm going to have to probably get a microscope soon.
Yeah, I've got one of these things. I don't know if you can tell, but it's like a toilet seat with a lamp and a magnifying glass. It works all right. I use it as a light more than for magnification, but it's handy.
Yeah. I also see what looks to be a fume extractor there.
Yeah, I 3D printed this the other day. So it's super simple. held together by zip ties. It's just an old 120 millimeter fan, some black carbon something from Amazon, and a DC jack. So it works pretty well. And just slap it on your desk, nothing fancy. It can get the fumes from, I don't know, maybe 4 to 5 inches away. If you crank the voltage up further, and if you crank it up more, it explodes. Ask me how I know.
I will. Elliot, how do you know?
Yeah, we might actually be able to see what we get here. But I don't know if you can see the smoke, but I can get a fair distance away.
Yeah.
Before it starts coming back up into your face. So I think that's pretty reasonable.
Need to make one of those.
Yeah,
So I can share the design if you don't want the pleasure of doing it yourself.
You need one.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, real simple. So I'll post that up on the forum or something.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's great. Any other tips, tricks, or techniques you guys want to share? And then we'll do the pine cell or whatever, however you pronounce it, and call it a night.
I think you had this in one of your soldering videos. Is the solder wick piece? That thing, the if you mess up, getting solder removed is easy. I have this thing and it doesn't really work very well. So I went out and bought some solder wick. It's in here somewhere. But yeah, it's a much easier thing to use. And I know somebody mentioned the gun. I've seen the guy use one of those as well, and I want one of those, but it's not. I'll just use the wick for now.
Yeah. The Hacko is so expensive. I just about dropped my teeth when I saw that. I went and looked at it the first time and said,
yeah, this thing's a good compromise. I think it's a really old design, but it's huge, and seems to get enough suction like all at once. It takes a lot of effort to like charge the thing, but it actually does a pretty good job if you need to get a lot of solder off of something.
Yeah, it's like 8 times the size of this one.
Yeah.
I have broken so many of those. I put them in my tool bag and they don't survive. But those are just not meant for being carried around much.
Yeah. The Hacko is expensive, but if you're doing something where you need to desolder a bunch of through holes, like let's say you're taking apart a keyboard, oh my God, I don't know how I would do it any other way. Anything else would be inferior.
If I had a business reason for it, no problem.
Yeah.
But on a hobbyist budget, it's not there.
I agree entirely.
The Yahuwah set that I'm looking at, it's an iron, a control deck, and the desoldering, the vacuum thing it's on Amazon. It's like 160 or something. I might manage that, but who knows?
Yeah. So a couple quick things about the solder braid. It does come in different widths. And then I also wanted to mention, I should have said this sooner, that solder paste and flux that's in the paste expires. So whatever it is that you're doing, this stuff doesn't last forever. If you keep it refrigerated, it'll last longer, but the flux over time, it just starts reacting, and then it's not going to be around to clean your boards, and then you're going to get crappy joints. So that's something to keep in mind when you purchase flux or stuff with flux in it, like my little flux pin here with Chip Quick, which I don't think we can see. There we go. Use it, because if you sit it around and save it for a rainy day, you're going to be out of luck. Another trick too, if you don't want to buy the gun and you don't want to use the little suction thing, is this stuff, this rim alloy. Chip Quick, I don't know if they make this, or I think this one's 247 solder, but it's a 4 metal compound that has a very low melting point. So the way that it works is you would melt it over the top of, some other solder, mix it all in, and then it stays liquid for a really long time. So you can get a lot of joints heated up and remove something. You'll actually see me use that in a video that I made. It might be visible to you now, but I haven't advertised it yet, where I screwed up my Pico placement and I had to take it off. It was depressing and hard, but that made it a little easier. All right, before we say goodbye, so don't go just yet, gentlemen. I did want to share this one because this is what I had people in the course asking for. This is the Pinsel, a weird name, little pencil soldering iron. It's got two power sources. You can either plug in a DC barrel jack, 5.5 millimeter, or you can plug in a USB. So I've got a high power USB doohickey now. I haven't read instructions because I didn't see any there, but it looks like it can get up crazy hot. So up to something like 416 Celsius. Why would you want it that hot? That scares me a little. What should I know about this, gentlemen who were telling me about this earlier? I think that was Don and Elliot were telling me about these.
The thing that makes it good is getting a good cable. If you use like some old USB cord or like an old, I don't know, laptop charger, you'll find the cable might be horrible. Like it's not flexible. And I don't know. Without a cable, this is like holding a pencil, big pencil, but it's really comfortable to use. But if you've got like something thick and rigid sticking off the end, it makes it really hard to kind of maneuver around. So silicone wire is the way to go.
Yeah, I found this one. It came with it was a Nodem, or wasn't a Nodem? It was a NUC, and so an Intel NUC that I had that died that ran off of 19 volts, and it's super flexible because it's real tiny, and the wires, is small, but it works well, and it has pretty good removability. I have burnt some of the little stuff here on occasion because I got it too close to the iron when it was moving around. So it is kind of big and it's long. The cool thing about those with the barrel jacks is if you really do have a battery, so you have one of these, a 3-cell lithium-ion battery, RC battery, you can just plug it in. It's kind of things. Now it's a mobile soldering iron now instead of having to find a place to plug it in.
So, all right. Well, that is the end of our first group live stream. I would like to thank everybody for spending an hour with me today. Don McCoy, would you like to share who you work for or keep that secret?
No. I work for Delta Airlines. I run a cyber security function within the airline. I manage the security operations, incident response, forensics functions.
All right. And Brian of Lindahl Engineering, would you like to tell us what you do real quick?
Well, professionally, most recently, I just graduated with a 2-year associate's degree in CNC machining.
Woo-hoo.
I don't have a job yet. I'm being a little too picky about things like hours and such. I do not want to work nights. I do not want to work 60, 70 hours a week. So I have to be selective. And I haven't, I spent 30 years as a software engineer. And I spent the last few doing all kinds of projects. I have too many hobbies. Again, I got rid of a bunch a couple of years ago, and then I'm back to more. And now I'm spending time designing circuit boards for.
Fair enough. Well, we're happy to have you, Elliot. How about you, sir?
Well, I'm an amateur like a million things, but in the real world, I'm a technical product manager. I work at backcountry.com and right now focused on ERP implementation and features. It's fun stuff.
Cool. And Emil?
I'm also working in software. I'm working for various companies. I'm mostly working for myself, and I'm building a startup right now in security. In the security space, an alternative to Burp Suite, if you know.
Okay.
Don.
Cool. Yeah.
It's
like to see it.
Yeah, I can send you the link for sure. And so yeah, a lot of but I'm beginning my career in software. Not as I don't have 30 years experience yet, so it's interesting.
You will.
Different places. And I've been actually studying like computer engineering, but I found that like during the university classes we'd never like design PCBs and everything. So but we did learn about circuitry, and I think it was like a missing pieces, and just like at least it's useful because learning for circuit is like nice, but you can't do much with like just with that.
Absolutely. Well, my name's Mark, and I am the creator of Teach Me PCB and one of the co-facilitators of this year's cohort. It's great meeting all of you and great getting to know you, and we'll keep this up just as long as it's useful. So thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your evening, and I'll see you in the course soon.
Thanks
Bye.
a lot. Bye.